everybody. Welcome to Carvers and Creators, a weekly demonstration and discussion with pumpkin carvers, sculptors, and multi-talented artists from around the world. First, we ask that you give us a like and a follow on the platform you're watching us on. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you have any questions for the carvers and our special guest. Let's meet the carvers. Let's do it. First, he's an artist and sculptor from Boston, Massachusetts. He was a judge on season 3 of Outrageous Pumpkins on the Food Network. Paul Dever, welcome.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey. Good morning, Paul. Hello, everybody.
Next, he's a multimedia sculpture artist from Tucson, Arizona, and a finalist on Halloween Wars 2019 on the Food Network. Matt Harper, welcome.
Aloha.
Hey, man.
Hey there. Hey.
Our guest tonight is a special effects makeup artist and sculptor. He has over 140 credits in some of the greatest film and TV projects for nearly 4 decades. In doing so, he has solidified himself as a true industry legend. Please welcome Brian Wade.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Absolutely. This is a treat.
You're very kind.
This is great. This is great.
My pleasure. It's always nice to be with like-minded creatives.
Awesome. My name is Michael Mondragon. I'll be running the show, moderating comments, and chiming in from time to time.
Yes,
Handsome.
we will.
Handsome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, Brian, I'd like to introduce you to the 4th member of Carvers and Creators responsible for our carving subject tonight. It is the hollow wheel, the center spinner, and as always, Paul will tell you more right now.
Uh-oh. The anxiety machine, too, we call it.
Yeah, right. The anxiety machine. Oh, hello, everybody. Okay, so Brian, this is the wheel. We're going to spin this bad boy twice so that we have no time to prepare and we definitely get anxiety in the process. So the first spin will be our subject for the evening, and the second spin will be the emotion. So the first spin is going to consist of an apex predator, an alien, old, elf, wolf, robust, aquatic, insect, guest choice, so be ready, and troll. Second spin will be smug, terrified, embarrassed, guest choice again, insane, drunk, creepy, nervous, crying, or clueless. Some serious combinations there, kids.
I love this idea.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Yeah, me too, until we had to do it over and over again. Nah, we love it.
Oh,
It's the best thing. It's so cool. It keeps the creative juices flowing and the anxiety high. And the Tums are right around the corner for when I get heartburn.
In the wheel.
What?
It's an alien.
Alien.
Alien. All right. Guest choice on the emotion.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
What you
Here
think?
we go.
And you don't have to go with anything
Surprise.
on the wheel. Surprised alien.
Surprised?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't see what the options were there, but I went for
That's why I
surprise.
pulled it away so
That
fast.
always allows for
I love it.
a lot of,
I will give you a do-over on that. You got smug, terrified, embarrassed, insane, drunk.
yeah, I love
creepy,
this.
nervous, crying, or clueless. Or, like you said, you could go with surprised. You could go with any of these choices on the wheel. It's your call.
I like surprised.
Okay.
There we
Yeah.
Surprise
Let's
is.
go for surprise.
And so
Sorry.
it is done.
Now
It
it's
is done.
logged in. Now we have to do it. Okay.
Now we have to do it.
Oh, I wish I could. Had I known, there's a part of me that wishes I could kind of follow along, but like I said, I'm not really great at chewing bubblegum and walking at the same time.
Neither was the grand champion of chewing bubblegum and walking.
Yeah. We have so much to cover of your stuff. Believe me, you'll have plenty to effectively go over. But you know what? We'll just put it up this way. We're gonna have to have you back on, and you'll carve with us next time. How's that?
Yes.
There you go. There you go. We're already booked you for another show.
Is the tricky part.
Okay, you can sculpt. Right.
Maybe I'll sculpt along while you carve.
There we go. There we go.
Sure, that's usually
That would be
the
for me,
route that great sculptors take is to sling some clay, as they say, right? So that'd be great. We love watching people in their comfortable element try to take the wheel challenge. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, I've been playing around with this monster clay, and that was fun. And then there's a monument medium that for me reminds me of the old Roma plastilina, and it makes sculpting just fun all over again, you know. So so that's always nice. I'd love to do that with you guys sometime.
Definitely. Mickey, lock it in.
Yes, I already have you on the calendar. I'm ready to put the date down. But
Okay.
have you ever done anything like this? I mean, in your world, have you ever like just randomly taken a challenge and challenge yourself like this?
Well, challenge myself, surely, yeah. I mean, there's the personal side, which is usually around Halloween or for the personal project. There's always that dilemma of like, oh, what do I do? There's literally every choice in the world. You could be anything. And my problem usually is narrowing it down to one thing, and there's just a cacophony of ideas. So that alone is always a challenge for me. But and then professionally, sometimes you'll get an assignment and your first bead on what it is, you'll think like, oh, that doesn't sound too interesting, or because it is what it is, whatever your day or weekly assignment is. And but early on in my career, I had to kind of adjust my mindset, because it really is just how you approach it. And my mindset turned to, let me try to interpret what they want, to the best of my ability, obviously, and try to filter that idea and give them something cool, hopefully cooler than they were expecting. So those are often some of the challenges, you know, and then that becomes fun, you know, that challenge.
Yeah. And you were even talking about like throwing like pieces of paper into a bowl.
Oh, the old idea can. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I remember, first of all, for me, remembering an idea that I come up with, sometimes my memory's like an Etch-a-Sketch. You know, I start fresh every day with a clean slate. But I used to jot down an idea on a little scrap of paper, and I'd crumple it up, put it in a little tin can, and then if I was ever like, oh, what am I going to do this weekend? If I wanted to do something creative, I'd just reach in and pull something out. And of course, I liked all the ideas, but it was a good way to just kind of motivate myself, you know, to actually do them. I love doing an idea, and I really have kind of a weird, I don't know how to explain it. I don't like hearing about somebody's idea. Like somebody says, oh, I have this idea I want to do. And I always like, you know, don't tell me, show me. Because it takes some of that, you know, you keep that energy in, and you, instead of walking somebody through it verbally and they go, oh, that's a great idea, you get that kind of reward instantly before you've even done it.
Right.
And I kind of like to kind of keep that inside and not talk about it and just do it. And I've always, that's more fun for me. And I always try to encourage my friends, like, you know, don't tell me, just show me. So, you know, doing your ideas is
in that process, Brian. So when you say show me, the question is that do in the form of a maquette, in the form of a drawing or a sketch, or what typically is the way you like to see it?
Finished.
Oh, when I say show me your, like, basically I'm saying just do it, don't talk.
Oh, got it. Oh, got it. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, because I grew up in this industry pretty much since I got out of high school, and so I've spent, you know, countless hours in rooms full of buddies working late and on weekends, and you get to chatting about this and that, and you know, oh, I have this idea and I have this idea, and just I noticed over the years, like, oh, how many of those people actually did those ideas? You know, it's LA, it's the industry. You know, everybody's got a script idea, and you know,
right. Everybody has ideas, but executed ideas are a different story.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It gets a little much after 10 or 20 years of hearing everybody talking about their ideas without actually doing them, you know.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. I love it.
You guys are just working away there. Look at you.
Getting started.
I want to watch.
Oh, yeah. I'm almost done.
All right. So that's a gourd. Is that what you said?
This is a butternut squash.
Butternut.
They can get really tall with the long and then the bell on the bottom, but every now and again you get.
How did you get into this? Did you see somebody else and you said, oh, you know what? That looks cool. Let me give that a shot.
Yeah, well, it all started for us with pumpkins, and I think, Matt, we've had this story before, where it really all started with one guy for us who was on the Food Network years ago named Ray Villafane. And there were a couple others that were doing it at the time on a specific show. And then from there, it really blossomed into how can we carve, not just at Halloween, but year round, to sort of progress as an artist in subtractive sculpture. And the easiest way to do it was practicing on sweet potatoes and squash and things like that. It's nice carving on a squash because different than a sweet potato. Sweet potato is solid, so you can go as deep as you want. This reminds us of Halloween because if you go too deep, you break into the middle and you have to adjust. So you either throw it away or you incorporate it into your design.
Understand.
So really, this is the practice step.
Was there a giant learning curve? Did you just kind of learn through brute force trial and error, or did you pick up some tips along the way? I know there's probably obviously a different workflow, different tools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we use ribbon loops that you would
you
pottery.
Mm-hmm.
So similar to that. But yeah, the pumpkin carvers that I know I've met, Matt, and I'm sure you can say the same exact thing. Whenever we would reach out and ask the silliest of questions, you would get the best answer. Everybody was so generous with their, sharing the knowledge and really just encouraging you to do more. So that it is trial by fire, obviously. Like you can buy a unicycle, you can buy the world's best unicycle. It doesn't mean you can ride a unicycle.
Right. Yeah.
Like you still have to practice. You have all the best tools.
Yes.
But you surround yourself with more like-minded people. And I know this has been a huge source of knowledge and inspiration for us just talking to you. I'll be writing things down off to the side that you say, because I know you'll be saying something that'll be like, there it is.
Always, never.
I mean,
never, unless you have to. But yeah, that's we literally we go to these, which are our favorites, really. This butternut squashes and Hubbard squashes, the gourds, the real thick gourds are the cool ones. Just they're denser, and pumpkins can be unpredictable. Like the one I just carved not too long ago was just about completely rotten, other than the place where I put the face. The rest of it was mush, and my fingers kept sliding through it and everything. But I got my picture. So.
Yeah.
As long as
on to the next one.
That's the beauty. Yeah, that's the beauty of pumpkin, because again, at the end of the year, like in November, when everyone wants to just get rid of them, you can just go buy a ton of them for very little money, because otherwise they just are like, pig food or something. So that's what helped me in the first few years, just practicing a lot. And then now that we've, like Paul said, now we can go year round by carving other things in the produce aisle. But the thing for us is the ability to kind of know the medium is a big part of it too. Like Paul said, there's certain grains of different pieces of produce that are better, more advantageous. But it's just a fun thing, because inevitably you get a good picture of it, and it's like a sand sculpture or an ice sculpture. It's just gonna go away, right? So you get a couple good pictures, be okay, but just love the process along the way. And as long as you do that, you're golden.
Well, I was just thinking while you were telling me that that must, on one hand, there's a part of me that thinks like, oh, that's almost a little bit sad that when you're finished, maybe it was a piece you were particularly fond of, but eventually, time's going to take its toll. But then I also thought like, oh, well, that sure saves on space where you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
We funny. Covet all these sculptures and molds and everything.
Yeah.
We say that. That's the exact response that I give, Brian, when somebody says, "Don't you wish you could
judge your?
No,
you throw away.
I'd have nowhere to. I couldn't even walk through my house. I'd be like a pumpkin hoarder because they would just be rows and stacks of all these pumpkins. And then other guys say there are materials now that you can cast something really fast. And those materials, my response is those materials are expensive, and I don't know if I'm going to like something until I'm done with it. So, and usually it's finished a day or two later, so it's already kind of past its prime. So I'm like putting lipstick on the pig to make it look good for a picture. It's already getting a little soft and dehydrated, but I mean, it's going to happen. I got a scanner and everything. I'm a one-trick pony. Like I have all.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but it always loses tracking. I don't get it. I feel like an old person when I use it, and I know how to use a computer well. And I damn scanner. I'm like, I don't have time to learn.
That is a really good idea. That's a good way to kind of preserve, obviously the photo, but that's a really good way to preserve that.
Yeah. Then it's a file forever. And if you can tweak it, you can 3D print it, you can do what you want. But I'm the same way Paul is. I'm like,
little ones.
Yeah, exactly. It's scale it up and down. I think there's probably something there that we just are having a mental block. I'm going to say we, as in Paul and I, probably have the same damn thoughts of like, it's never good enough to do. But I guess if it's just a file living on a computer, maybe someday my mind will change. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know what they say too is if you put it in, you got to have ZBrush. So if you scan it and you don't like the quality of the scan, you bring it into ZBrush and you have basically your template, and you can just
that's what I was just going to say.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It's a great. You can kind of tweak things and then output it.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
I wish I could afford one of those really nice scanners. I've seen the results.
Oh yeah, those are awesome.
I would just do ideas left and right and throw them away or recycle the clay because you have the file.
Right. And talk about zero space being taken up. You could have a whole catalog of sculpts that you've been working on at your fingertips that you could just throw onto a screen.
Yeah. We're on to something. Here's a note to everybody. Back up all your files because I just took my computer in to get updated, and all 4 of the internal hard drives died. So I'm going to have all of those. I forget what they call it, where they try to restore them.
Oh yeah.
And it's
data restore.
It's going to cost like data recovery.
Yeah,
data recovery. Like $2,000 a pop.
God.
Yes.
So, but I have to do it because it's my 40+ years of work. I have to try to rescue. So, anyways, always back up your files.
Yeah, great advice. So I won't belabor it, but did you just have a heart attack when you realized the thing just crashed? Or were you just like,
Well, the sad thing is, and I'm a little, I don't want to say proud of myself, but I can imagine there was a time when I was younger where I would have responded much more emotionally about it. I brought it in, and they were just the hard drives were fine. They were just going to change out the graphics card and something else to get it up and running. And then they called me up with the bad news while they were doing that. They somehow, a short went through this, happened, and all the hard drives crashed. And in my mind, my immediate response is like, you guys screwed me.
Yeah.
But it could have happened at any point in time. I didn't point the finger. I realized this is where we're at for whatever reason, and just got to move forward.
Yeah. I've been a graphic designer for over 30 years, and
But I wanted to lose it.
I remember it very vividly.
I'll lose it for you.
Sorry.
I said I'll lose it for him. Do you want me to call the place and be like, you guys screwed this up? It didn't happen on my watch.
No, but he's right. It's like there's this thing when it first happens to you. Like I one time on a software update on my computer lost a whole pictures of all my trip to Japan in 2005.
Oh no.
I've lost projects, like I was saving the project and the computer crashed. Therefore, it didn't save at all. So I had to redo it. It's just like that's the thing with working with computers is like you kind of have that thing of, and hard drives go out and, technology.
Yeah, I didn't realize they have such a short shelf life, like 3 years sometimes,
Yes. Yeah. So you have to multiple backups is actually the answer.
Absolutely. You need an external, and then everybody's saying to have the cloud
version, right?
Fail safe.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. So, and it all takes time, too much time.
Yeah.
I suppose if you're savvy enough to figure out how to set them up so they do it automatically once a week. But then again, there's the thing in your head, like once a week, what about everything I did this week that might get lost or,
Right. We have enough anxiety with what we do. We don't need more.
Yeah.
Says the guys that spin a wheel every week.
Yeah. I am talking to you guys on a fairly new laptop, and I love it. It's a great one. I would highly recommend it. But this always happens on any new PC I end up with. It's getting those little pop-ups in the corner. So
preferences.
Oh, no worries. Well, let's talk about
you guys want to see.
Yeah, all good.
Right.
All good. Look, let's talk about your career, Brian. Like, where did you start? Like, did you traditionally go to school, or are you self-taught, or you just like start working in a business? How did that work out?
I think schools are really good. They're a great jumping off point, especially since the industry is so big, and I think a lot of people coming into the industry now have a lot of opportunities to reach out to people because of the internet and all of the social media. That wasn't going on when I was a kid. I think my story is fairly early on as a carbon copy of a lot of makeup effects guys who were somehow found themselves drawn to these genre films, and without me knowing why, I just was, I was, the TV was like my babysitter growing up. But fast forwarding, I fell in love with all this stuff. I didn't understand early on how any of it was done, but my brain was actively going like, all right, this looks fake, or all right, there's a zipper in the back, or along with enjoying the movies, obviously. And then my curiosity got the best of me, and I went to the library, that was what you did back then, and found a course book on makeup for stage and screen, and then that was just like a mad scientist laboratory of things you could try. And I started dabbling with some of those things, and trying cotton and latex build-up makeups, and trying to do little molds on myself. And I creatively, I had already been drawing since I was a kid. That was my creative outlet. So I think as fairly soon after starting down the comic book road at like 6 or 7 or 8, whatever age, I would envy some of the artists. I would see their work, a particular panel, and I'd be compelled, like, oh wow, it's so beautiful. And there was a part of me that wanted to copy it, to try to create something that beautiful. And I found that to be a very good exercise, because it teaches you, anytime you're trying to copy another work or copy from real life, that's a really good way to inform yourself. And if you have a good eye, you can see where you're off and where you need to adjust things. But fast forward to junior high school, which I think I was probably about, 14. My best friend at the time came to visit, and he's like, and I'd been playing around. I think I had made a couple masks by then. And he came over and said, like, hey, there's some guys making rubber masks in their garage. Do you want to go check it out? I said, yeah. Do you remember where it is? And he said, yeah. So I grabbed a stack of my drawings and we ran like, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of a mile, the whole way there, just out of enthusiasm. You know how you have a little kid enthusiasm. Wanted to get there before they closed the garage. And a couple guys were working on stuff, and they had the garage door open, and we stood respectfully outside and just looked at everything, you know, like, wow, this whole wonderland of, okay, what's that? And what's that? And they were curious about, you know, and they said hi, and I said hi, and we just started talking. And I'm like, oh, what are you guys working on? And you know, I really love makeup effects, and I brought some drawings to show, you know. And so we kind of started a rapport, and I asked, hey, can I come back? And he said, anytime the garage door is open. And so being an obsessive person, I went back every day just to check to see if the garage was open, so I wouldn't miss anything. So that was a gentleman by the name of Kenny Myers. He's a very talented makeup artist, union makeup artist, and believe, you know, one of the founders of Premier Products, or he does these skin illustrator colors is his claim to fame in that. And he was very kind and very generous with his time. And also another gentleman named Eric Jensen, who has worked up at ILM, and he worked on The Howling. And so these two guys who were older than me were very kind. You guys were talking about how people in the field were kind and shared their knowledge with you, and that struck a chord with me, because I don't. Likewise, I mean, where would we be if everybody we asked, like, oh, how did you do that, or what tool did you use, just shut us down? It'd be a whole other story, you know. So I think after a couple of weeks in my coming by, I said, like, hey, and the whole time I'd just stand outside the garage, you know, I'd be quiet and just watch. I said, hey, can I do something to help? And I said, no, you know, we appreciate it. I said, well, let me sweep, and they were thinking like, no, you know, you're very kind. We do. I said, let me do something. I'd rather be in there sweeping or cleaning buckets or whatever than just standing here. And okay, knock yourself out. And then, you know, an hour or two later, it's like, hey, have you ever airbrushed? No, let me show you how to do this. And you ever trimmed seams? Nope, let me show you how to do this. And it just went from there. And then by the time I graduated high school, I got a call from Kenny, like, hey, I'm on a show. You know, would you be interested in coming down and working on it? And I said, absolutely. You know, and that was a film called Galaxy of Terror. So this is going back to, I don't know, let's see, is that 79 or 80? I have to look it up. But the good thing is that was at Corman Studios, Roger Corman Studios, and I don't know how vast your nerd knowledge is, but that was also where James Cameron was working. So that was the first time I got to work with James Cameron, which was awesome. He was a sharp guy, still is a sharp guy. And let's see, what year is that? It's showing as 81, so it probably happened in 80.
Yeah.
And that was a small show, but it was a really good experience. You know, low budget show. People were being very creative, and there was more than one occasion where I'd be in the shop and Kenny'd say, like, listen, this shoots today. Why don't you take it to set? You know, I have to do other things. And I was like, okay. And, you know, I knew nothing about going to set, but I'd go and because it was like an effects insert stuff, it was, you know, what they consider, you know, second unit. And several of these times, second unit crew would consist of me and then just James Cameron and whatever camera he had, whatever lights were around. So that was kind of fun, to be quite honest, because he'd be like, hey, grab that light. Let's turn it over here. Let's try this. And it was just two guys figuring out how to shoot something. And he was a sharp cookie, Wow. Or is a sharp cookie, obviously. Great for himself.
Wow.
So that's kind of my intro into the business.
I was going to say, it doesn't hurt growing up down the street from legends and being in Hollywood.
Very fortunate.
That's
very fortunate.
A wonderful story. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and isn't it ironic? We were just talking about this. I mean, even how the show began, it's all chance encounters. Like, it's like, can you imagine you were in the right place at the right time, and it just that one encounter, meeting those people, brought you to that whole, it brought you this amazing career. Like, it's like, can you imagine if you'd gone like, I'm not going to do that one day, it's like, no, you were obsessed about it. It's great.
Or if the garage door was never open.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you. I feel very fortunate. I'm always, anytime I see Kenny, I always thank him. I think he's over it by now, but I have to acknowledge it every time I see him. I tell him thank you. But very, very, very fortunate. The practical makeup effects is or was primarily a practical effects oriented department. And what fascinated me about it early on was when I would see films where they would do a makeup that was particularly successful, was the how did they do that, like the magic trick aspect of it, because stuff had to happen on camera. And like, for example, even going back as far as Frankenstein or the Creature from the Black Lagoon, I remember seeing The Howling or Rick Baker's The Squirm, where worms would be crawling under somebody's skin, and just being like, how the heck do they do that? And when I was younger, I did really love magic, and then that was another thing where somebody could be right in front of you and perform this illusion. And I've always been fascinated with that, and I love the direction things have gone with the combination of practical effects and CG effects to either enhance or to augment, because they're all great tools. And to me, that's really kind of the special part is taking it from something that's an idea all the way to something that could potentially fool you in person, or come across magical in some manner on screen. So I mean, it's really just kind of a perpetuating things that I loved as a child.
Sure.
So in that regard, it's a great job.
Speaking of practical effects, one of my favorite all-time movies is The Thing, and I believe you had some involvement with The Thing, right?
Yeah, you jumped forward. I saw the little Piranha 2 there. After Galaxy of Terror, they kept me on, and we moved to a different facility called MEL here in North Hollywood. And Kenny was kind of partnering up with those guys. And one of the next projects they got was Piranha 2, which, as it happens, was another Cameron project. And so I actually got to sculpt the flying fish piranha for that film.
Yes.
It was a weird story. Or I just told this story the other day to a buddy of mine. We're on this tight deadline for some reason. Cameron had done this beautiful sketch. He is a very talented artist in his own right. And someone had blocked out half of the fish on one side, and they said, look, we got to mold this in the morning. You're going to stay here all night or whatever it takes and finish it up. I said, okay, great. And he said, oh, by the way, we're going to lock you in because, we don't want anybody to break in or whatever. So, and there was no way for me to leave. So I was there all night, whether I liked it or not. And so I started working on that, and I'm looking at the sketch, and then I'm looking at the blockout on the one side, and I'm like, these don't look anything alike. And I thought, oh, I really love the flow of this sketch. I wish I could. And for maybe 20, 30 minutes, I was like, do I change it? Do I just be a good robot and just match it on the other side? And I don't know what possessed me. I would probably never do that these days because, the boss is always right. So I just changed it and finished it up, and it looked just like the drawing, fortunately. And in the morning, everybody came in, and I won't say who it was. I'll let him off the hook. The guy who had blocked it out said, "What did you do? You were just supposed to match it." And he was not happy, let's put it that way. And Cameron, to his credit, came to my defense and said, "Look, it looks just like the drawing. Get off his back. It looks great." So I kind of wiped my brow there. If he hadn't been there, So anyways, that's the silly story of that film. But it was a nice opportunity to work with Cameron again.
Wow.
And that was the second of the three things that I worked on with him. Third being the first Terminator.
Wow. Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah. Never heard of that one. Yeah.
You mentioned The Thing.
Yeah.
The other gentleman I had mentioned prior, Eric Jensen, that was working in the garage with Kenny Myers. He and I had kept in touch. Super sweet, lovable guy, very kind-hearted. For some reason, we were chatting on the phone, and he said, "Hey, you know what? If you want, I can put your name forward on a couple of projects." So I think this was 80. It was probably 81. So I'm not sure which Star Wars film was ramping up. I don't know if it was the second or the third one. Mm-hmm. And he said, "I have some friends working on that. I could put your name in there and get you on that." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? That's like every little kid's dream, to work on a Star Wars film." And he said, "Or there's another film going on called The Thing, and Rob Bottin's going to be doing that, and that's going to be here locally." And so I just did kind of the math in my head. All right, one is up north. Have to figure out that whole dynamic of getting up there and sorting out a place to live. But it'd be a Star Wars film. And then I was thinking, yeah, but the creatures are kind of Muppety. I was just, all these thoughts were going through my head. Oh, yeah. And then on the other hand, I was thinking, The Thing, that's down here. It's Rob Bottin. He just did The Howling. He's Rick Baker's protege. And it just made sense to me. It seemed more like a direct makeup effects avenue to go, right to Rob Bottin. And I said, I think I'd like to work on The Thing. And he said, "Oh, great. I'm going to be the makeup effects line producer. I'll get you on board." And that was just it was like Christmas, Have you guys seen The Howling?
Of course.
Yes, of course.
So imagine seeing that and then somebody saying, "Hey, how would you like to work for Rob Bottin?" It was
mind blower.
Yes, absolutely. And it was
to this day, The Thing. My girls are huge fans of it as well, and American Werewolf in London, all the ones that are just still can't believe that was done practical effects kind of stuff, and to be that old. I mean, 80. I'm older than the 1980s. Well, plenty. But my point being, I'll watch the scene with the dogs in the kennel, or the or the fight or the, you know, where you mentioned any part really of it, where, and I'm like, wait, how did they, and it's like, you can barely believe that you're seeing something that is only practical. And then you see CGI stuff that's purely CGI and it looks fake. It just, you know what I mean? It's like this weird, especially in modern movies. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, granted, not everything on any one of the films we're talking about holds up 100% or is bulletproof.
Right.
But I think one of the things about the thing and the effects in there is it's kind of like a roller coaster ride, and it's there's so much going on in one sequence that, you know, while you're trying to figure out what just happened, you're being bombarded by another thing, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and it's like overwhelming in a great way. And you really have to hand it to Rob and for dreaming up that stuff. You know, there was a good, amazing crew on that. We had Mike Plug, the artist, also working with us, and his stuff helped influence some of it. So it was really, you know, this team of creatives building. But Rob was the first person that I worked with who had a gift for, when he would tell you his idea, it was like he was walking you through, like painting a picture in your mind's eye of the shot and walking you through it. And he was very, very gifted at that. And so, I mean, yeah,
so
and
cool.
No shortage of ideas. Yeah, so, and he was like ridiculously young, 23, only a few years older than me, if you think about it at the time. I think I was 18 or 19 by then. And but that was one of the single greatest, that was a projects to work on, and it kind of informed my career very early on of a lot of important things. You know, I haven't worked with too many people who were willing to push an idea the way he did. You know, so, you know, and the ones that are willing are the ones that have been noticed for that, you know, for the creativity. And everybody's got their own style or their own thing they want to get across, you know. But I think he really made a niche for himself by having that talent. And it, like you said, I'm surprised and also not surprised, like when you say that film still holds up. I mean, I'm surprised because I obviously had no idea at the time that it would have such a long-lasting effect on people. And it continually ends up on these top 10 lists of practical effects. And but
just horror movies in general. It's just a good movie. There's not
great acting
out there anymore.
I've worked on a lot of films, and I still have people to this day who will introduce me to somebody, and they're, oh, this is Brian Wade. He worked on The Thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I did, but maybe 100 plus other things along the way. Okay, you know, if that works for you, there's nothing wrong with that. You know.
Okay. Well, here I am starting off with The Thing. I can't help myself. I'm just such a huge, crazy fan about it. And
no, there's nothing wrong with it.
Paul said too, like there's really, it's a good movie. There's it's great acting. There's the story's great. It's, you know, anyway, I will stop belaboring that.
You know what the best thing is in a way is it found its audience, and it still has traction after all this time. That makes me happy. You can still enjoy it. You know, even if the computer stuff's a little old, it doesn't really matter because it's up for the period. And you got Kurt Russell and the rest of the supporting cast. I've been on a few panels with some of the actors and some of the makeup crew, and it's a really good time going down memory lane with all that.
Oh, I bet.
But it was as far as the project goes, I think it was over a year. I think it was close to 14 months. And our crew, there was a nexus of Rob's crew. There were also some union people on board, but they called them the hardcore crew. We were there literally 7 days a week.
Yikes.
12, 18 hours a day minimum sometimes for 7 days a week for 14 months. And it was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wouldn't change a thing.
It was no plan. You know, I was young and you know, there's some wild times on the film. I might have sidestepped some things that were going on, but truth be told, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And it was a good proving ground, you know. Back then, the passion everybody had in the industry was, I feel, stronger. And there was nowhere else you wanted to be more than in a shop with a bunch of like-minded guys making stuff. You know, there really wasn't hours, so to speak. You just worked, you know, I mean, maybe loosely it was an 8-hour day, but kind of coming weekends, or, you know, you have somebody crack a beer open or whatever, but you're hanging out with a room full of like-minded creative people working on cool things. And, you know, there can be tendency for, and the industry necessitates that, for things to be very departmentalized. But then back then you had to do everything. So that was very creative. And yeah, there really was nowhere else you wanted to be. You're joking around with your friends, talking about some latest movie, or somebody's playing a soundtrack to a movie, and you're all working, and you're hanging out with your buddies all day. Yeah. You know, talking about monster stuff and creature stuff and makeup effects stuff. Right. It's great. I mean, I still love doing it.
Yeah.
So Brian, I guess this is a far second, but I'm hanging out with like-minded people, cracking a beer,
Pabst Blue Ribbon, no less,
having things that I love to do, and I get to hang out with Brian Wade right now. So
it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Cheers. Here, I'll have my Red Bull with you.
There you go.
I'm having a protein breakfast drink for you because it's
we affectionately call it carving oil. That's what gets the joints loose and everything. But also, I wanted to ask you about, you know,
wait, real quick before I forget, when you talking about the carving oil, there is a company. I wish I could just pull it up. That has an item. It's a liquid that it's basically whatever you brush down the material, the free form material that you're sculpting with, and the liquid is called sculpture enhancement fluid. And I joke around that they ought to put that in a spray bottle, and you could just go around and just spray it on people's sculptures.
Well, it's a good thing that it's intellectual property at carving oil. We've taken it. Yes, Carvers and Creators, carving oil. We're putting it out there to the world. Put it out there. Everybody seems to love it. It's definitely fun. But Brian, I want to ask you, like, back when you had first started, you know, movies and television were much different, and now it's all blended. Where you know, they're both have super importance, but back then, like, movies were like a super huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was no Netflix, that's for sure.
And it was the 80s and 90s, of course, were a time with, you know, a whole slew of films that kind of really, you know, Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, and, you know, there was just it was like a prime era for films, you know. So you know, now everything's streaming and there's pluses and stuff to that too, the convenience of that. But I really miss going to the theater sometimes to see the, you know, movies as an event. Sometimes if you saw a movie you really liked, or at least I did, I would just stay put and watch it all over again. You know, that's what I did the first time I saw Road Warrior. I just like, I'm not moving. I want to ride that ride again. You know?
Yeah. And you've worked on some seminal movies. I'm going to flip through some right now that are just like unbelievable. And so maybe you can touch on some of the things that you did in these movies while I go through them. Any remembrances of these movies?
Zombies.
Let's see. I could go down the line. Did The Thing. What'd you have there? Last Starfighter, or what was that?
This is Gorillas in the Mist and Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine. Gorillas in the Mist was one of those for me. I mean, you know, Rick Baker was and still is my idol. He, you know, while other kids might have had like posters of Lamborghinis and Farrah Fawcett up, I had clippings of Rick Baker's makeups and stuff up on my wall. And so I think Gorillas in the Mist might have been the first time I got to work for Rick Baker. And I think it was early enough in my career that my mold making skills were kind of getting me more work than anything else, at least in the larger shops where things were more departmentalized. But it was a really great opportunity to work alongside some of the best people in the industry. And of course, Rick. So that in and of itself made that project fun for me. And Enemy Mine, I was more hands-on. I had been brought in, I think, also to help with molds, but I think that for the second half of my tenure up at Chris Wayless's, they were kind enough to let me get in a lot of sculpting, and I was working with Oscar winner Stefan Dupuis and Chris Wayless, and it was a really nice environment. It's minded this still in the days where everybody you know, was very passionate about it and worked beyond 5 o'clock and would socialize with each other. You know, I don't know if it's the times or because maybe my generation's gotten older, they don't hang out as much, you know, but yeah, Enemy Mine was particularly fun and creative one for me. I thought that was a beautiful design by Stefan Dupuis, and he was very thankful and that he was kind enough to let me jump in on some of the Drac sculptures and background stuff and the makeups, and I think some stuff for the baby Drac, which was cool. So all of these were Captain EO. That was another Rick Baker thing. And the Gremlins too. So these are Rick things where I was mostly relegated to the mold department, and he had far more talented, at least at that time, sculptors than myself, you know, at his disposal. But I was just grateful to be able to see how things were done when you had time and money to do them the right way. So Psycho 2, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th 6. Yeah, that was it felt like a really small show, but big on opportunities. Let's see. That I was brought on by a company called Real Effects, and the guy who was kind of running the makeup effects on that was a talented guy named Chris Swift, a very likable guy, a lot of talent, very funny. And we had a very small crew in a kind of a small shop, and I got in at what I felt like was a little bit after everything had been established, but I got to go to location, and they had cast this one actor as Jason, and the makeup was already done. Everything was a done deal, but I was there on set, and they had shot some footage with him, and they looked at the dailies, and somebody felt like the character was just kind of, I want to be polite, that maybe he was a little heavy for the role. He didn't read as this imposing force. And so somebody made the decision, like, all right, we got to recast this guy quick. And they sent me back down to LA while Chris held the fort on set, and said, all right, they're going to send you an actor, which was CJ Graham, super nice guy. And you have to light cast his head and hands, sculpt the makeup for his head and hands, mold them, cast them, and then fly back up to shoot them by Monday or Tuesday. I think I went down on a Friday, and I had to be back on Monday or Tuesday with everything done and ready to go.
Wow.
It's a one-man show. I think I had somebody helping with the molds. And so that kind of gave me the opportunity to actually do Jason. So that made it fun for me. And some people, it's one of their favorite Jasons or one of their favorite Fridays, or, so good for them. This is a whole subgenre. I'm sure there's the same for certain Freddy Krueger and different films where the fan base is huge. They're super loyal and they're super devoted and super into it,
Yeah.
So, I learned that over the years. So that was a really good creative opportunity and a really great crew. Harry and the Hendersons over at Rick's. So there I was mostly in the mold department, but that won an Oscar. That was where I met Kevin Peter Hall and became friends with him. We would socialize and go hang out. Super, super wonderful guy. And as you know, he later went on to play the Predator in the Predator film.
Yeah, he's a big, tall guy. One funny thing, this is me back in high school. I was a lifeguard, and I'm 6'6", so I was one of the taller kids in the
holy cow.
In life.
And
on the planet.
So the running joke was that I was the guy inside the Harry and the Henderson suit, and we make that for we tell that all to all the little kids, and we'd freak them out. No, that was really me. Yep, that was me. And then we would try to find other movies. So, he was also Darth Vader. Do you know that?
You know what, man? Now that I'm thinking back to it, I remember I was over at Matt's house one time, and there was a baby there, and you told me, or I think it was the running joke, but I didn't know it at the time, that I go, oh, that's the baby that they're tossing up in World According to Garp. It's like at the very beginning of the movie, and I still remember that. For a long time, I thought that was the actual baby. You used to play that joke a lot.
I'm just a bad person. I think that's I just tell people whatever I want them to believe.
6'6". That must be nice. I have a couple of friends who are 6'5", and I remember walking down the street with them when they were on either side of me, and I just felt like a child next to them, looking up at them. I'm like, I'm not used to this, but good for you. But Kevin was 7'4". So that's a whole other,
yeah.
And a sweet guy.
Matt.
You'll ever meet.
I'd have to look up to him. I'd look like a child next to him.
and obviously, if you've seen the films, he's responsible for imbuing the character with so much character, Absolutely. And I think that Rick and the crew really hit it out of the park on that.
Oh, excellent! Yeah,
I'd like to go back and rewatch that film. So,
we talking about Harry and the Hendersons?
Yeah.
That's the best. I still can't figure out, because back then there was no CGI, but the face is so good it looks CGI, but the face is this big. Like, there's no way that's a human being's face, and the eyes are so expressive, and the mouth is perfect.
Yeah.
Like when he has the laughing fit, when he's sitting in the recliner having the laughing fit watching TV, I laugh just as hard as he does, just because of the laugh.
Look at you. You're done already on your little guy.
Me?
Popping up on the screen. Yeah, you're done.
I got a ways to go.
Right. Well, I mean, there's
Well,
this.
this goes back to what I was saying. This thing's solid, so it's almost like cheating. I should just put a little nose on him. He looks like Tweety Bird.
Oh, you know what? Now that you said that, you've
And I'm
seared that. You're kidding. You can't really add, can you? Or I suppose you can.
You can.
You can
use super glue.
There's clever ways to do that.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, you think about it. Super glue is great because it adheres to wet surfaces really well. So it works really well on these. As long as it's a flat surface, and 2 flat surfaces, and then you can put it on there really.
Yeah.
Easily.
All right, I'm gonna ask. Have you ever accidentally carved away something, and it ruined it, or were you able to fix it?
In the last 5 minutes? No.
No, I mean in this pursuit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing why Matt and I don't use a lot of visual reference. We don't print a lot of stuff out. Every now and again, we'll look at a photo just to make sure we got the muscle right, or we'll take a picture of ourselves to keep things in check.
Right.
But this way, if we don't follow reference to the T, when we do screw up, it just took us in a different direction.
Yeah.
Right. You just go with the flow. Yeah.
Right.
Go with the process. Just go with the flow. But there's a lot of shit.
More fun.
Yeah.
Constantly. Whoops.
What do you got going on in the background there? There's behind your.
This right here?
Tweety Bird, but there's another thing that.
Oh
no!
This guy here.
There's. Yeah.
So I have
the teeth.
Oh, that's actually another alien that I wasn't referencing, by the way.
Right.
That's just another surprised alien.
Just to have them ready to go. Yeah. So I was obviously not even close to done, but something I just sort of started for a friend that had an idea.
Wait a minute. How do I know? I'm just joking, of course. That you haven't pre-sculpted all the different combinations.
Pull them out of the
camera moves away. The camera moves away and then it moves back and you're done.
Or I walk away and but my hands are still there working because it's all pre-recorded. I just sit down like I have a third hand.
The magic of television.
You hear the toilet flush, but the video is on a loop and your hands still moving.
Is Paul sleeping right now? What the hell is going on?
Fast asleep. What the hell?
Sculpting around the clock.
You're out.
That's like hitting Mega Millions.
Errands. You're out running errands. Everything on your to-do list. And
what do you got, Matt?
Footage of your hands moving.
I need to get a little bit better lights. Let's see if this works.
You still have pumpkins. Wow.
This is a red.
Have you seen?
This is my little.
Have any of you guys seen? Oh, yeah.
He's coming along. It's like on the
it.
block part. I'm trying to make him look more surprised, but he's got a little tooth in there.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Wow. I wouldn't even know where to begin. So, but it's something that I haven't tried. Yeah, you just try it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I suppose that's the fun part. And I remember some of the very first things I sculpted. You don't know anything, and you don't know any better. You just want to do it, and you just keep. And I've had people say "Hey, I've never sculpted before." I'm like, you know what? Just have fun. Don't forget to have fun, because if it's not fun, why would you want to do it?
Yeah, that's good advice.
It's an endeavor. It's a staircase that you never reach the top. So, just keep climbing.
Yeah.
We were making the joke about the video loop of his hands just moving while he's out running errands. There's a guy, I'm not sure if it's TikTok or whatever, but he does this thing with a blue screen behind him. And he has a laptop with a webcam going, and he's out at a ball game or something with this whole contraption behind him, or riding a motorcycle, with this blue screen projecting him in whatever web conference they're in.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He also, if I'm not mistaken, he did like a UFC fight, and he was like on a Zoom thing. He was in an octagon. Yeah. So he does everything. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. He's committed.
Yeah.
To
Totally.
that whole contraption. Yeah.
Totally. So going to modern stuff, tell us about this. This is obviously a storied career, and then you get one of these gold statues for your work. Tell us about this.
I don't have one. I would love to have one, but this is for this year, actually. This was a project that to my right is Justin Raleigh, and that is his Oscar. But that was for Eyes of Tammy Faye with Jessica Chastain, and that was one of the two. There's some things that happen in your career, like when I worked on The Thing, or maybe when you get to work on a character like Jason or whatever. But this was one of the highlights. That was this year for this year's Oscar for Best Makeup. And I was fortunate enough to be entrusted to work with Justin on all the stages of all of her makeup. The entire film, she's in prosthetics. Even this image here, she's covered in prosthetics.
Wow.
So I did all of hers, and another gentleman named J.D. Bowers did Andrew Garfield's prosthetics. But she was amazing in it. I always like when there is an actor who does an amazing job while wearing the makeup. So I thought she was very deserving of her Oscar. She also won the Oscar for that. And I was grateful that Justin allowed me to go to the Oscars, because I think a year or two before, another makeup that I had done all the stages for won. It was called Vice, and I didn't get to go that year. So it was really grateful to be able to represent some of the artists and be able to go. And that was one of the, I mean, I don't know how much more happy you can be than working on something and being at the Oscars while they announced that it won. That was such a nice moment, to be proud. And there's a huge crew involved in the processes, the various processes for this, mold makers and people who run the silicone, and of course the on-set makeup artists who have to bring it to life and make it look flawless. Sorry about that. And and you can see this is a fraction of the looks that she had in the film. So I guess I'm just trying to say that I'm very grateful to have had a couple opportunities like this that were acknowledged to this degree. And this won practically, I think, every award it was nominated for. It won the British Oscar as well. And and Justin is one of the nicest bosses I've ever had. He has a very good eye. He is kind-hearted by nature, not to a fault, but and appreciative enough to acknowledge the hard efforts of his crew, which he did on more than one occasion. So I'm very fortunate to work with people like that. And when this culmination, this intersection of creative opportunity and talent come together sometimes wonderful things happen. So
Mhm.
after that, I was going around saying, well, I can get hit by a car tomorrow and I'll be a happy man, because, one makeup that wins an Oscar is awesome. Two, then you feel a little bit more like it wasn't an accident, but yeah, it's one of the highlights of my career, certainly.
Yeah, and we're talking about Vice. Here is the
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Christian Bale. This was one of many projects over the years that I worked with Greg Canham on. He was kind enough to reach out to me, and I basically did all the sculpting work from my home studio, and they had a studio set up that had all the facilities to make all the positives and make all the molds and run all the materials. But I was moonlighting and working evenings and weekends on this show, fairly late into the evenings on occasion. And he was great. He was one of the few actors. I guess they told me that during one of the makeup tests, he said, like, "Oh, who sculpted this?" And I go, "Oh," which, I don't know any actors who ask that question.
Yeah.
And they told him, and they invited me down to the set to meet him, and I was just thrilled.
Oh, wow.
He was a super sweet guy, obviously super talented. And this was a collaboration. I worked with Greg. We lots of reference photos for the source of the character. And I think there were 4 stages. We did a test design early on. He told me what he wanted, and I fleshed it out. And because Christian Bale had never worn prosthetics before, I think he was, a little, I don't want to say gun shy, but he needed to see how it worked. And fortunately, they liked the design, and the test went well, and so the whole film was green lighted on the strength of that, and nice. Moved forward, I should say. And then I think there were 4 main stages to this makeup. He wears prosthetics through the whole film. Even when he's young, he has cheek pieces on. And some of them I just had to do in super short notice because of the schedule. So, but another great opportunity to collaborate with super talented people, and the end result, I guess, speaks for itself. But yeah. That was the first year. My mom called me up, and she was crying when it won, and when she heard my name in the thank you speech. And I thought, that's all a kid ever wants, is their mom to be proud. So that was the highlight of that for me, for my mom to be proud.
Very cool.
Amazing.
Very cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. I got a question for you.
This character.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I just related to like the myriad of movies, and Mickey's got a lot more pictures. But when it comes to the body of work, I'd be curious to find out if you had a favorite movie memory, not necessarily an actor or whatever, but just a specific memory that is like sticks out in your head as like, that was just an amazing experience, whatever that is, from all of your movies you've done.
I couldn't say one, because I've been fortunate to have several, but I like and sometimes miss work. Like I used to go to set a lot, and that was fun for me. I have one of these minds that needs to be constantly entertained, and that seemed to do it for me for a while. I think over the years, I got tired of this sitting around and waiting, but getting to spend time with certain actors has been very rewarding, because I can remember when I was really, really young, I got an opportunity to do a music video with Diana Ross, And I had never worked just like one-on-one with a superstar, somebody of that magnitude. I had worked with some character actors or, actors I'd seen on the small screen or in some movies. And I was really nervous about it. And someone said, you know what, just be yourself, and they're people just like you. And I just talked to them and joked the way I would with somebody I wanted to pass time with. And she was great. She was absolutely, I mean, people had told me like, oh, she's a diva. She was fantastic, and we laughed and this and that. And I think what I'm trying to say is when sometimes actors have to be in their space. I get that. But on the occasions where you establish a bit of a rapport and maybe, hey, let's go they invite you to go grab drinks, or, I had Carrie Elwes from Princess Bride invite me, like, hey, come spend Christmas with us when he was in Prague working on a film together. And I was just like, oh no. You enjoy Christmas with your family. I don't know that, I don't want to intrude on that. But the times where you do kind of get to just be people together. All right. While we were talking, one thing jumped out. I remember I was working on a film when I was working in Europe, and one of the actors said, hey, if my friend Heath Ledger's coming into town, he's going to be working on a film, and we're going to go grab a beer. Why don't you meet up with us? And I was like, well, no. Like, how long has it been since you've seen him? He's like, oh, it's been a couple of years. I'm like, you guys need to catch up. I don't want to be the third wheel. He's like, dude, just come down. I said, well, my girlfriend. He's like, don't be an idiot. Come by. So I asked my girlfriend if she wanted to go, and she's like, oh, no. And so I said, I'll go for one beer. I went. I had a beer. I met him. I thought, let them catch up. And then a week later, I was at an event space, have a drink. I had come with a friend and couldn't find them, and I was trying to decide, like, I'm going to make one loop around, and if I don't see them, I'll just head home. Yeah. And I get a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around. It's Heath Ledger. And he's one of these people who can remember a name, which you got to hand it to him. He said, Brian, right? And so to be funny, I said, Heath, right? And he said, yeah. He's like, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm looking for my friend. I lost them. I'm going to make a loop and then just head home. He goes, yeah, I came here with a friend as well, and I can't find him. Do you want to have a beer? Oh, okay. And we sat and talked about life and relationships and our girlfriends, and you have any problems? Just two people talking about life. He was such a super sweet guy. And, my God. And that made me, like, I knew him more from that than I did from his body of work up until then. Right. Because I knew of him, but I don't think I'd really seen anything with him in it, but I certainly knew who he was. Yeah. And so I think that made it a little more sad for me when he did pass, because I thought, oh, he was such a good guy, Yeah. But my point being, it's these opportunities to kind of be people together with the actors, Absolutely. It's not something that happens every time or that I try to pursue, but when it does, I've always enjoyed that. Just talking about life and what's going on. And so, and there's plenty of creative opportunities in this industry. So, I couldn't pinpoint like one that I enjoyed more than all the rest, because usually I try to think what the next thing is and how can that one be sometimes, what's on the paper lends itself to a lot of creativity. And sometimes it's kind of like your grocery list. You have to, all right, you need tomatoes, one slit throat, one arm that breaks, and you got to go do it like that. And then sometimes there's like, I remember on Fright Night 2, we were trying to, Bart Mixon, who was the supervisor, was saying like, oh, you know, at the end, there's sort of this finale thing. I'm like, do you have any ideas? And he showed me sketches that he had done. I said, well, what does it say in the script? And it said, elevator door opens to reveal a bat demon from hell. And I was like, bat demon from hell? There's a lot of leeway there. You know, let's tell you what, you know, why don't you do whatever you had in mind? And if you're cool, I'll work on something on my own time. And I like opportunities like that. I think having worked with Rob Bottin, I learned that sometimes the script is, it's what they're trying to describe is either something very specific that they have in mind, but whatever is written there, wherever some major effect or idea or visual is going to happen, sometimes that's just a placeholder for something better, you know,
Right.
some for the better idea or for the better vision. Or, you know, if you have a dialogue with the director, you can say like, hey, but what if, and, you know, I feel it's your obligation to show them the world of possibility. Anything can happen here.
Yep.
You know, where they just wrote like, you know, a mysterious creature, you know, like, well, that's a whole realm you can explore. And I think on the thing, Rob just, you know, took that and ran, you know, with all those opportunities. And I think because of working with him that I still am, have that desire to kind of, where there's an opportunity, let's shoot for the moon and the stars, or at least talk about all the world of possibility. And you know, you usually have to rein me in, you know, but I found that a lot of times that, you know, even if you're pushing for this really wild idea and they bring you back to a certain degree, you're way above whatever was on the page or whatever idea they had or someone else had in mind or didn't have in mind, you know, because they're looking to you to kind of come up with the ideas.
And
so those are the things I try.
Isn't it awesome? Also, it's like just being constantly creative brings you all these amazing opportunities that you may not have gotten had you not been just creating. And again, we're all sitting in the same room together virtually because of that, because of just creativity and everything. So it's a true testament to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I'd be doing. I'm very grateful. It's this little kid idea of like, oh, I'd like to do that. You know, just managed to, you know, put food on my table all these years, you know, 41 going on 41 years later, or at least so yeah, it's a weird job if you think about it compared to like a lot of other things going on in the world, you know.
Then you get to work on stuff like this.
I
mean, season 1 though, I didn't work on this guy.
Oh, you didn't work on okay, so season 1,
the Demogorgon.
Yeah,
I like what they did there. You should take that off the screen so no one.
You got it.
So I'm claiming that. But season 1 for the Demogorgon, I got to work with Spectral Motion again, who were, you know, just a really talented and fantastic company headed up by Mike and Mary Elizalde. And you know, I always loved working over there. They were kind enough to ask me to head up the crew for the Demogorgon, and I was fortunate enough to get the talented Miles Tevis, who just texted me last night, and Andy Burkholz, who's an incredibly gifted artist and sculptor in his own right, and a pumpkin carver.
And one of the old school, one of the original guys,
he and Ray were a couple of the first, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, super nice guy.
Yeah.
So
In fact,
I couldn't
my fun
lose
little
with
bit.
that crew.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
In
My
my
fun little bit
opinion.
of trivia about Andy Bergholz is that guy right there,
The Balrog.
the Balrog on my wall, I picked up at Andy's house in Thousand Oaks a few years ago. He was moving studios and didn't have room, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take it. And I was just a fan, and he put it out there, and I'm like, oh my god! And then I just spent the next month trying to figure out how I'm going to get it back because it's massive, and it's weird. And I anyway ended up meeting him that way. He's just fantastic.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy and incredible talent. So I mean, with it, along with the rest of the crew, the mold makers and the painters and seamers and the incredible mechanical effects department over at Spectral Motion. What that one, I think the initial design, the basic design, was done by Aaron Sims, and I think this is my thoughts. I haven't actually had this conversation, but generally what happens is 3D artists or concept artists who use like ZBrush or whatever are brought in to do a bunch of ideas and designs, kind of like I call it a shotgun approach, where they just kind of throw a bunch of ideas out there, and then everything starts to narrow into a direction that the director or whoever is preferring. And so it narrowed down to this idea, and then it was handed to us. But I think we did a lot more to kind of refine the body of it, just because it was a little bit loose, or there was a lot room for things to be sorted out. And then what we did informed the digital department, which was again Aaron Sims's company, and they took what we did and remodeled the digital Demigorgon to match. But I mean, that show, that's one of these things you always it's a roll of the dice. You work on something, it could come out and it just comes and goes, and you work on another thing and it just takes off. I mean, I have Demigorgon Funko Pop figures on my shelf in the other room, and you're like, there's the little kid in me is like, there's a toy of something I worked on. I like that. I don't know. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
And speaking of toys, you were also involved in this, correct?
So, but I mean,
You get a Star Wars chance.
the crew is up at the top. Oh yeah, I know. I think I think I got these finally. Oh no, these are Black Series, one which may or may not have been released yet. But yeah, this is from Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, that's going to be another toy on my shelf. I'm sure I have it in the box still. Did you ever see the Saturday Night Live skit where they talk about the Star Wars toys?
Yes, where they save them all. Yeah.
Get 3. One to play with, one to put in the cabinet, and one to keep in the box.
Yes.
All the kids are playing with them, and they just kind of put it in the cabinet, close it.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, these are...
And this is the Grand Inquisitor. The last image was the 5th brother character, and this is a Grand Inquisitor. Yeah, this is a little bit of a tricky makeup in the beginning. What's the best term? Everything is under a very strict eye in certain ways on these shows. I mean, they had their senior art director Doug Chang, just all over everything. And I'm a big fan of his going way back, and he's an incredibly gifted artist. But I mean, we were counting out how many rows of furrows he had on his head, measuring them with calipers, and everything was just, they're like, oh, I think he's got too many. And we're like, it's exactly what is in the artwork. And just, you have to go over and over and over these things. Right. And it was great. It was, however you get to where you get, I thought all of these makeups turned out well. And some of them, I thought some of the lighting was better. And that favored it because it was like either a more natural light or whatever. But, for me, this is another example. By the way, this was all done under Sean Smith's supervision. So he really took the bull by the horns and did an amazing job, and as did the rest of the crew. So, but
it kind of looks like everybody. See if I can make that face. I have the same ridges on my head.
Yeah, I'm not far behind you. But in the end, it's another example of it making the little kid in you happy, to become part of the Star Wars universe and work on it. And a character that becomes part of that whole universe. And they brought the Grand Inquisitor. That's the name of the cat series. He was dead. But whatever. Sorry, I'm nerd.
No, it's all good. No, it's all good. Let me. I want to go around the horn because I want to definitely see what Matt and Paul are. What their progress is before we wrap up for tonight. Ooh, oh, there you go.
Hey, yeah, you get some more brow expression going on there.
Yep. Tweety Bird will be okay.
Tweety. Is that sandpaper or is that a 3M kind of Scotch-Brite?
Yeah, Scotch-Brite pad. So like this
Scotch-Brite. It becomes sandpaper.
Yeah, gotcha. It moves off all the edges.
See? All right, show me what you're working with over there. So you have a kind of ribbon tool, a couple ribbon tools.
Ribbon loops of various sizes.
And the rakes.
And that has
a mini ribbon loops for detailing.
Now the larger one has some teeth on it on one side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little rakes. It's hard to see. Sorry.
Got it.
There. And then the minis, and then other than that, really just a couple of knives. What do they call this?
Sureform. Sureform rasp. Yeah. And
that's it. And
what's the thing that looks like a toothbrush head?
Oh, it's just that. It's just that. I just use that to.
Is it a wire brush or a?
No, it's a soft bristle brush. My wife told me what it's for. It's, it's like a heavy duty toothbrush. It had a handle until I couldn't help myself when we were talking and I was doing this and it just snapped off and I cried a little.
Awesome.
But not too many tools are required to dig into things. Oh, and a spray bottle.
Yes, a spray bottle for sure.
Yeah. Is that water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're 90% water, so they want it to hydrate as you're working. So you keep them moist, and they just keep working for you.
I get it. Are we going to do this again, or do it part 2?
Yes,
we got to.
We can always do part 2.
We have to because you have more stories. It's awesome hanging out with you, and we got to get you to take the challenge.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to have all the clay you want. You can bring your what's that Monumelt and show us how that works.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
This one.
Yeah, that would be even if it's just hanging out to hang out.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, 100%. I'd love that.
Because truth be told, I miss that. I often say to some guys I work very closely with at work, I'm like, God, I kind of miss the old days when you just hang out and work on stuff. I was trying to get my boss, Justin, I'm like, you know what we need to do? We need to work on some of our own stuff. I said, you've got this whole big company, this big toy box, and you don't get enough time to play with your own goddamn toys. And he's down for it.
Let's get him all in here. Let's do it. Let's have a creative powwow. Let's get it going.
Well, I don't know if I could talk him into all that, but I'm trying, you see somebody working so hard and he's keeping a business going, and like, you got to miss just working on something fun for yourself, for your own.
Right. His own project. Yeah.
Just to make something. And again, so like you said, shoot the shit with a bunch of like-minded artists, right? Have some laughs.
Exactly.
Goof around, look at each other's stuff, and like, wow, look at that. That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
Matt, what do you got? Show us what you got.
I'm not very.
uh,
It's kind of blurry. Sorry, I don't know what.
Okay, we can see it. We can see it just fine.
All right.
Well, not if you
Have
hold
you
it
got
behind
a
your-
2-camera setup? Some of you guys
Yeah,
have 2
it's a little
cameras going on
picture.
here.
Yeah.
I got a little picture-in-picture
Wow, look
thing
at that.
going on too.
Yeah, we gotta,
But yeah, so this is terribly blurry. So I'm gonna see if I can. This
Oh,
might
we
look
can
a little
see it,
bit
Matt.
better. Okay. Well, yeah. So
Oh, cool.
this is. I started messing with the chin wrinkles a lot. So he's gonna have he's gonna have no chin, but a whole lot of
Very
skin.
fleshy.
Yeah, and then he's gonna have. I think I can't figure out the nose yet, but right now I have a lump, a little bit of a profile. So I'm not very good. There we go. So we'll see. It'll turn into a surprise alien at the end. So I promise.
yes, eventually it's going to be a surprise alien.
Hey, I couldn't do it. I have to
Yes,
applaud
you
you.
could.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know nothing
one of the
about
best.
that. I'm a cheater. I can add clay to it. But yeah, let's do this again sometime.
Oh, it's fantastic. Well, let me close out with this. This was your Halloween get up.
Unbelievable.
On the having fun note, that was the most fun I'd had in months. You know, it came right about before Halloween that I had a little bit of free time, and my girlfriend asked me. This is Audrey, my girlfriend, as my beautiful victim. She's like, "What do you want to do for Halloween this year?" Because she knows I love Halloween. And I was trying to feel out the situation, like if she wanted to do anything. I'm like, you know what, honey, because I love her. Like, whatever you want to do. If you want to do something, we'll do something. If you don't want to do something. She's like, well, you know, I'm just saying because, you know, if you're going to do something, you should start now. And I for some reason, I misread her and I thought she didn't want to do anything. I said, you know, we can just chill out, you know, not stress. And then we started getting invited to parties. I'm like, honey, this person invited us. This couple invited us. And she goes, well, I want to go. I'm like, oh, all right. You know, that shows you how good I am at reading the room. Unfortunately, I had time, and it was one of the most stress-free Halloweens, and we had a good time. This was my take on Jack the Ripper, and she was my lovely victim.
There you go.
So a little background on kind of the workflow, I suppose, that informed this. We did a 3/4 live cast of me, which I hadn't had one done in a while, so I was grateful to have that available. And then we called it snap. We did a smaller live cast of just this area of my face.
Okay.
And I took a pair of dentures. These were the ones you're seeing there are actually lowers because I thought they were creepier. And I put them in my mouth all askew, you know, just kind of half sticking in and out, where they were pushing my skin unnaturally. And then we did a silicone copy of my face in that expression.
Oh, okay.
And it's got a silicone molding material and a plaster bandage shell. And we popped it off early while the plaster bandage shell was still green, not solid. Mm-hmm. And I skewed it. I just kind of tweaked the shape of it. And then I poured warm clay into it, and I used that deformed life cast as kind of an inspirational jumping off point to do the rest of the makeup. A lot of that was destroyed in making it fit the face, but there was a lot of information there that I kind of used to kind of develop. Wow. It was a lot of fun. I had a day to spare, you know, just to chill out before Halloween.
Just a day. It only takes a day.
Yeah.
Anyways, I talked too much about that.
I love that. I love every bit of that. The problem is you probably couldn't drink a beer with that face.
I had to drink through a straw, and
See?
I had one of those long theatrical kind of old school filters for a cigarette to smoke. So,
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
But
Always a workaround.
One of the parties we went to had this incredible catered spread, and I couldn't eat one bite. I was like, I really screwed myself.
Well, if you would like to see more of Brian's work, go to Millionaire Clayboy on Instagram. Is there anywhere else we can see your work, or is this where we should all go?
That's kind of between that, and I have a bunch of Facebook albums. I don't think, I have a very public Facebook thing, so there's a whole bunch of albums of work there. So
or you could just watch half the movies in the last 30 years.
Or that.
You're going to see Brian's work. He's amazing.
Right. And this is where we are. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. Guys, any last words before we sign off for this week?
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, guys.
And
appreciate
make sure you come back. We got to have you back.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We'll see you at Monsterpalooza too.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We'll have to have him on before Monsterpalooza, though, so that we can break his cherry on the wheel. So he knows. We will get him to do things at Monsterpalooza.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I'm down for that.
Perfect.
Right.
Yay.
All right. So everyone, that is it for Carvers and Creators. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night.